Hey everybody, it's Ozone, and I'm back with a video explaining all there is to know about the Divine Paradox Vault. Now maybe you're just starting out or have been away for a little bit, and the Divine Paradox Vault is, well, a paradox that you don't understand, and if so, you've come to the right place, because this is where we're going to talk about all the lovely details. Now what is the Divine Paradox? Well, it is this thing that I'm standing in right now. It is actually quite lovely. This is the portal room of the Divine Paradox Vault, and it represents all four of the Vault Hunters' Vault Gods. Each quadrant of the room is dedicated to a different Vault God. And you know what? I wish the starting portal in Vault Hunters was like this a little more often, honestly. But that actually doesn't do very much to help explain it now, does it? All right, so let's step back a little bit more. The Divine Paradox Vault was introduced in Update 12 and further refined a little bit in Update 13. Which brings me to a really good point. This video is based on Update 13. It's the latest update we have available right now. But Vault Hunters is constantly undergoing changes, so it's very likely that something's going to change in the future. So I just want to give a little caveat. Everything in this video is subject to change, and something is probably going to change as time progresses. But anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand. The Divine Paradox Vault was introduced in Update 12. And with the introduction, it solved a really big problem of what to do once you start getting into the upper levels. It's what I call the mid-game, going from, say, level 50 to level 100. Previously, all you could do was run vaults over and over and over again, and they got harder and harder, and you just kept getting more mods unlocked and stuff like that. But for a lot of people, that wasn't very satisfying. And so the Divine Paradox Vault here is an answer to that. It may not be the complete answer, there may be more yet to come, but it's an answer. But in a nutshell, the Divine Paradox Vault is a vault that you build, kind of like the old Architect vaults of the 1.16 version. The really nice thing is that you get to keep the build that you do. That's right, as you continue to expand the vault, it doesn't change. It's limited to about once a day, and you can't even begin to start building it out until level 40. Although in reality, it's really going to be like a level 50 or level 60 thing where you're actually starting to try to run it on a regular basis. But all of that is kind of putting the cart before the horse, because we also need to know why. Why do you want to run the Divine Paradox Vaults? And the answer to that is very simple: artifacts. Now, as you probably know, the main point of Vault Hunters is to collect 25 unique artifacts, and those artifacts are fairly rare. You have about a 5% chance of getting an artifact within any completion crate. Any crate except the Divine Paradox, that is. With the Divine Paradox, it's a 100% chance. And so one of the ways that you can collect those 25 artifacts is to try to complete the Divine Paradox Vault. And that, my friends, is the main reason why you should care about the Divine Paradox Vault. I mean, not to mention it's just a great place to loot as well. But we'll come back to all of that in a little bit, because we've got to start even further back with the rework of the Vault Altars and the Vault God Reputation system that came with Update 12. Prior to Update 12, you could find vault altars like this in any of the common rooms at any level, and you had a small test that you did based on the Vault God. They were rather minor. For instance, the Windar behind me would ask for a little bit of vault time, Idona would ask for some mobs to be killed, and the reward was pretty minor too. You may have gotten a vault idol, but in all likelihood you got a blessing token which could be used to craft vault idols. And the bottom line was, they just really weren't worth the time that it took to complete them. Now, however, as of Update 12, Vault Altars don't exist in the dungeons until level 40, and when you do click on one, you get a challenge, and the challenge is actually quite challenging. If you complete the challenge within the time limit that's provided, then you get a blessing from the Vault God, and the blessings are also quite good. And then additionally, depending on your affinity, you may get a reputation point from the Vault God. And that's a lot going on right there. So let's start with the topmost thing, reputation. Your reputation is shown on your stat screen, accessed by the H button, with as a number for each of the Vault Gods. And as you can see, I have 1 reputation with Idona currently and 0 with the other Vault Gods. You can only have 25 reputation total among all of the Vault Gods at any given time. Now that can change. As you continue to collect reputation within one god, other gods will be randomly reduced. Which may sound like you don't actually care about which gods you want the reputation in, but let me tell you, for the Divine Paradox anyway, you do. And there are some other bonuses if you have super high reputation. For instance, if you have the max 25 reputation within a single Vault God, you unlock a brand new transmog that is really, really cool looking. But that takes a lot of focus and a good bit of time to accomplish. Additionally, having that 25 reputation with a single Vault God can allow you to expand the Divine Paradox Vault quite a bit, and I'll have to come back and explain that a bit more a little later on. For now though, let's see what Windar wants us to do. Alright, you can see it's only asking us to kill one champion, and we have about 9.5 minutes to do it. This time limit is imposed by the vault difficulty level that you're running. Hard has the shortest amount of time, where easy has a much bigger amount of time. So keep that in mind in your playthrough. Not all of the vault times are going to be the same. These tasks here can range from killing horde mobs, to killing tank mobs, to mining ores, to collecting a certain number of a certain kind of chest, and things like that. I mean, normal stuff that you're gonna do in a vault anyway, but it's usually a big enough number and difficult enough that if you want to get it done, you've got to really focus on it and leave pretty much everything else alone. So let me go see if I can find a champion to kill, and we'll come back. All right, we got lucky. Here's a champion right here. And as you can see, I've still got 4 minutes left, but I've had to go around and spawn in a lot of stuff. If you're not in creative mode, this is a lot harder. But killing the champion shows us that we get both a favor and a reputation. And I know that because of the extra chime that happened at the end, like this one right here. And this favor is really good, +2 speed. All of the favors are actually really good, and they affect everybody in the vault for the rest of the vault. But be warned, not every completion of an altar is going to give you a reputation. Now, I didn't have to come back to this altar. I got the favor because I completed it, and it didn't matter where I was. But if I do come back to this altar, you see there's something hovering on the altar behind me, and that is a bonus. That is a token. The token is different for each of the Vault Gods, but the effect is basically the same. You can apply it to a crystal and get this same favor added to the crystal once again for your next vault. Because like I said, these favors are really quite powerful, and there are several favors that can be had, including favors that give you extra strength, regeneration, better item quantity, all kinds of good stuff. So having a token from a completed altar can be a really valuable thing to go back and do, if you have time to do it anyway. But like I said, the challenge that you get from the God Altar is really difficult, and I can pretty much guarantee you're going to fail it at some time or another. So what happens if you do? Well, let's find out. This time, I need to loot 13 gilded chests. And if you played the game a little bit, you know that sometimes you just don't find those chests. So even though 13 doesn't seem like it's that big a number, let me tell you, it's certainly possible to fail a God challenge. And just in case you think you might get clever and get more than one God altar going at the same time, no, that's not allowed. Only one God challenge can be activated at a given time, and once you do have a favor from a God altar, only one favor can be applied at a time, regardless of the vault god that it's from. So keep that in mind. You can do more than one God altar, but you can only have one favor, and it will cancel out the previous favor. But anyway, back to this altar so we can fail it. Let's see what kind of curse we're going to get. And there we go. It added Baron, which makes all the chests in the vault only half filled. So that's a minus 50% item quantity. Like I said, the curses are pretty bad, and some are worse than others, honestly. There are a couple where I will just end the vault if I get that curse. And specifically, I'm looking at fading. That's where you don't regain hearts at all, no matter how much healing you have. So yeah, when fading happens, I just leave the vault. A lot of times I'll leave the vault on ethereal too. That's where the mobs start getting spawned in that are completely unkillable. Because that's a pretty risky situation, having mobs attacking you that cannot be killed. Your tolerance for the curses may vary. Mine is honestly pretty low. But you can, of course, go on and try another altar. One strategy that I've learned, and I think it helps a lot, is to do some scouting before you trigger the altar. Look around in the adjacent rooms and kind of get an idea of where you might want to go if you want to get ores or certain kinds of chests. That kind of thing. It can really help make the process a little bit easier. But like I said, I did also manage to get a reputation. So let's talk about what it takes to get that next. So here we are back in my humble little abode to talk about the vault god affinity. Affinity is the chance that you have of getting reputation. And by default, it's a big fat goose egg. You have none. That's right, without at least some affinity with a vault god, you have no chance whatsoever of getting a reputation in that god. You can still do the vault altar, complete the challenge, and get the favor, because the favors are good in the vault, but it will never yield a reputation. You can see your affinities on the H screen down here at the very bottom, and that's nice to be able to keep track of. So then the question becomes, how do you get that affinity? There are two ways to start getting some affinity. First, starting at level 40, you can start to find these charms. Charms are found in living chests and come in a multitude of strengths, starting with Noble at the weakest, Distinguished at a little bit more powerful, Regal, and then Majestic. And you roll them up just like any other vault gear. The charm is affiliated with one of the gods. In this case, this charm is affiliated with Idona, and you can see it gives us 6% Idona affinity. Whereas this Majestic one also happens to be Idona, but gives a massive 38% affinity. Also note the number of uses. Just like trinkets, these have a use count that is based on the number of vaults that you go into. So this particular charm can go into 10 vaults before it is broken. And it just so happens that the charms I was demonstrating with were both Idona, but as you can see here, we got a Tenos charm with 15 uses, we've got a Windar charm with 14 uses, as well as the affinity that varies slightly with them. But obviously the charms that you start to get at level 40 are going to be the least powerful. And honestly, like a 6% chance of getting a reputation really is not very good. So fortunately, there is a better way. And the better way is through the divine expertise. This expertise allows you to increase your affinity rating for all of the vault gods, not just the one whose charm you are wearing. And that affinity toward all vault gods can be raised to as high as 30%. So I absolutely recommend that starting at level 30, you put your expertise into Divine, so that by time you get to level 40, you have it maxed out, getting that full 30% affinity in every vault god. And charms work very similar to trinkets in that you have a slot, a special charm slot, that it goes into for your inventory. And look at that, it looks super cute just floating around my head, doesn't it? And the bigger the charm, the more powerful the charm, the more particles it puts off. Look at that. That looks pretty imposing. And it matches my red goggles too. So while you should always take a charm in with you, because the affinity from your charm will also stack with the affinity from your expertise, it's important to realize that once you enter the vault, you cannot remove it. Yep, it's locked once you go in that portal. You're stuck with that affinity, no matter how many of the other vault altars that you find to the other vault gods. And you'll get one of these charms as part of the gods quest that you start to get after level 40. There's a bunch of quests dealing with the gods and the Divine Paradox Vault, which of course you should do, but they also can be slightly misleading. Because in all likelihood, you'll get to the Divine Paradox quests before you ever gain any god reputation at all. I'll tell you from experience, that 30% seems like a pretty high percentage chance, but it's harder than it seems. First of all, it's hard to even complete the challenge, and second of all, it sure seems like that 30% doesn't get hit very often at all. So it's going to take you several vaults and several levels before you even begin to collect some reputation, at least based on my experience. Now you can go ahead and complete the quest because the goal is simply to attach the right seal to a crystal. But I do recommend that you don't run those crystals until you're good and ready. And so now that leads us right into the next step of what are these seals and what does it mean to run those crystals? The first seal is the seal of the creator, and honestly, it's not that expensive. I mean, it does take a pog just to run a vault, so it can really add up. But this seal is what allows you access to the build mode of your Divine Paradox Vault. Remember what I said at the very beginning. The Divine Paradox Vault is a vault that you build and it stays with you, meaning once you unlock a room, it's unlocked forever. So the build mode is what lets you actually do that. The next seal is the seal of the Ordinator, which requires a seal of the Creator as its base, and then a lot of echo. But the seal of the Ordinator is what lets you run the Divine Paradox Vault as a vault that you can actually complete. When you're in build mode, it's perfectly safe, there's no mobs, nothing can hurt you at all. But when you're running it like a normal vault, well, it's a very dangerous place, just like a normal vault. And to bring this full circle, remember why you want to run the Divine Paradox Vault, because that completion crate is going to have a 100% chance of having an artifact. So let's head back into the Divine Paradox build mode and spend a little more time talking about how we actually go about building the vault. It's also worth pointing out that look at that vault time down in the corner. There is no rush here. You have all the time you could ever want to really study all these things and figure out how best to build out the vault. So let's look at how we do that right now. The portal stands in the very center of the room, and at each wall out, there is a doorway with some writing. A doorway that tells you a little bit about what you're going to find on the other side and how much it costs to buy that. So we can see that this is a common room. It gives us 2 additional modifiers of opulent, and it requires 1 Valera reputation and 20 vault gold. And notice the terminology that I used there. It requires 1 reputation. It doesn't cost a reputation, it just requires a reputation. The very first room for each vault god requires just 1 reputation. The second room that you unlock requires 2 reputation. The reputation is not removed, but each room that you get into just simply requires a little bit more in order to unlock another room for that vault god. So in my case, with 1 Windar reputation and 1 Idona reputation, I can unlock 1 Idona room and 1 Windar room. And it doesn't matter what kind of room it is. It doesn't matter whether it's an Omega room or a common room. What matters is that it's a Windar room or an Idona room. And so for this reason, I recommend that you don't come into your Divine Paradox Vault until you have a goodly amount of reputation acquired, and you feel like you're ready to start possibly running the vault for real. It can be important and it can be really useful to know what rooms are available to you right away, but if you don't have any reputation, or in my case only 2 reputation, the benefits of coming into your Divine Paradox Vault are really, really small. I mean, I can buy out 2 rooms, and then what? Well, then I got to come back and do it again once I get some more reputation, because you're probably not going to spend a Pog and 6 Echoes to run a vault with just 2 rooms. Also, as an aside, there are so many new and unique blocks that can only be found in the Divine Paradox Vault, but when you are in build mode, you cannot collect any of them. When you do come back and run the Divine Paradox Vault, then you can get those special blocks and bring them back out, but sadly, not in build mode. So let's go back to this doorway, this common room that requires a Valera reputation, which I don't have. But I mentioned somewhat in passing that it adds 2 opulent modifiers. So buying a common room is going to make 2 permanent opulent modifiers added to this vault. Each doorway is going to be slightly different, but in a nutshell, your common rooms are the ones that you're probably going to be wanting to get first and foremost, because they offer positive modifiers. You know, they're not your Omega rooms that you're always excited to find in the vault, but the positive modifiers can really make a difference in your Divine Paradox Vault. One of the positive modifiers that you're going to be after the most is extended, getting additional time. When you first run your Divine Paradox Vault, you really don't have a lot of time. And so buying a few common rooms with the extended modifier can give you the extra time that you need in order to get things done. If we look at the next doorway out here, it gives us an X mark room, which can be good and it can be bad. You know, we all love to hate the X marks rooms, but this one requires a lot more gold. Is that 59 gold? And it adds a negative modifier in terms of rapid mobs. Now it also gives us a positive in terms of wealthy. So much like a Brazier Vault, designing your Divine Paradox Vault is a strategy about which of the good modifiers you're after and which of the bad modifiers you can tolerate. Our other door out of here gives us Soul Harvest as a positive modifier and only a common room. And this one requires a Tenos reputation. And our last one is an Omega room, the library. But it gives us 4 bad modifiers and no good modifiers, also costing a massive 120 gold. Alright, well I am back here in the build mode of the Paradox Vault because I couldn't do anything in creative mode for some reason. So now I've got a whole bunch of reputation and a whole bunch of gold, and let's start building out one of these rooms. I think it's best to start with this common room, which is a Valera reputation and adds 2 opulent. Remember, our other common room added Soul Harvest, which is meh in my opinion, and I don't want the X mark, and the library room is something special that I want to come back to a little later on. So to buy out this room, we click on the text here in the middle. Don't click on the gold part down here. It's not really working. You got to click up here, and now we can go on to the Valera room, which is, oh my, so pretty. Every room in the vault is themed after the god that it is associated with. So even though this is just a common room, and maybe you've seen this pattern in other themes, this theme, the Valera theme, is only available here in the Divine Paradox Vault. And what I haven't said yet is that when you run the Divine Paradox Vault for real, as in trying to complete it, inside each themed room, you collect blessings that are associated with that vault god. So this Valera-themed room will only yield Valera blessings. And a Tenos-themed room will only yield Tenos blessings, of course, and on and on. So that's why it's really important that you have at least a couple of each of the vault gods' reputations before you start building out your vault and before you start running the vault, because well, there's really no chance of actually completing the Divine Paradox Vault unless you have at least one room in every vault god. But honestly, I think it takes a lot more than that. But in here you can see we've got another common room. This has the extended modifier, which I know that we want for a Windar reputation. Another common room, another Valera common room that adds wealthy. But now notice that we now require 2 Valera reputation in order to unlock this room. Also, as I pointed out, the reputation does not get removed. It just requires that you have a little bit more. And our last one is an ore room that also gives us opulent with an Idona reputation. But for now, let's get this extended time and go for the next common room. And also notice that this room is themed very differently. It's just a common room, of course, just like the other one, but this one's all yellow for the Windar theme. But what I really wanted to show you is that this library room is also accessible from the other side. So basically we went around 2 rooms and came at this library room from the side. The vault gold cost is a little bit different, 114 versus 120, but the modifiers are still the same. I think that's just an accident and I want to keep exploring, but it shows you that the door that you buy is what really matters, not necessarily the room itself, because there are some variations. So let's keep going on around. We'll buy this ore room. It added chunky mobs, unfortunately. Oh, and look at this evil looking Idona room. Kind of scary. And now back at the other door, on the other side, we've got one lucky. And this one requires 2 Idona reputation now because it's another Idona room. So you're seeing the pattern here, right? Let's get that unlocked. And we're back at that same library room. And this time, yes, the modifiers are different. This one gives rapid mobs, clumsy mobs, and 2 shortened. So it's still 4 negative modifiers, but a slightly different combination, and requires 101 vault gold. I'm going to go ahead and do this one because I want to show you something else next. And so we've got a lovely spooky Idona-themed library room, but it's important to note here that the tunnels off to the side where we already have rooms are not open. This one goes back to the Windar room that connected off to the side, and this one goes off to the portal room where we first started. So just because you buy a tunnel into a room doesn't mean you buy all of the tunnels into the same room. But the nice thing is these connector tunnels are pretty cheap at 8 gold, so let's buy it and head on back to the portal room. Very handy. Another really good suggestion that I've heard, and I wholeheartedly agree with, is to physically map out your Divine Paradox Vault because, like I've said a couple times, it does not change. And so the layout will always be the same. Use a highlighter and color each room after the vault god that it's associated with. This will help you to more easily navigate the Divine Paradox Vault as you're coming and going. You'll get used to it, yes, but a real map, a physical hard copy map, can be very useful as well. Now I just want to point this out. This is the second time I've seen this while making this video. I just bought this hallway and it comes up to this thing that just says tunnel to Windar reputation with no gold cost. That seems to be a bug. I got very confused by it the first time I encountered it, went back a couple rooms, and when I came back, the tunnel was open. Or actually, it looks like you can just walk right through it. Weird. I don't know what's going on with it. So if you see that, just don't be freaked out. It seems to be something that's with update 13. And so I've run around and bought several rooms, and you can see that my hotbar is completely devoid of gold because, yeah, I used a lot of gold. I found a second library room, but no other real Omega rooms. Or the other thing to note is look down in the lower right corner at all of those modifiers. Goodness gracious, there's a lot of them. Not all of them are good, but I did manage to get 4 extended. So now it's time, I think, to talk about the portal room a little bit more. We've spent a lot of time in this portal room, but we haven't really talked about these guys at all. These are your turn-ins for the Divine Paradox Vault. When you first enter the portal, you'll have a scavenger hunt list style of items to collect. They will be the 4 different blessings from the 4 different vault gods, and you need to collect a certain amount of them and then turn them in to the altar for each of the vault gods. Each god has its own altar within each quadrant of the portal room. So it might make sense to crisscross through here quite a bit in order to unload and get rid of the blessings that you've been able to collect so far. If you can satisfy the gods and collect all the blessings that they require within the time limit of the vault, well, that's a vault completion, and you'll get that ever so special crate. So let's go back out and get ready to run a vault. Now it's also important to note that we can look at our crystal, and now it's been updated to show a list of all of the modifiers and rooms that we have unlocked. 4 Valera, 5 Tenos, only 2 Windar, 6 Idona. So I used pretty much all of my reputation for Idona, and I didn't find very many Windar rooms, and, well, that's just the randomness of it. It's also worth noting that as we look at these 2 crystals, it's got the type up at the very top. This one says type build, but this one says type run. And the run type has a time of 10 minutes, which will be changed by our extended and shortened modifiers. So this is something to keep in mind, as you might end up with more than one crystal somewhere and need to be able to tell which is which. Now that we've talked all about how to build the vault, we have a little bit of a pop quiz. Are you ready? Have you subscribed? If you didn't answer yes, well, you got it wrong. No, I'm just joking with you. Did you know that you can get 100 rooms unlocked in the Divine Paradox Vault? And if your memory is good, you'll remember that I told you can only have 25 vault reputation among all of the vault gods. So how do you do it? How do you get 100 rooms unlocked within your Divine Paradox Vault? And the answer is it's just a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work. All right, so you start with your first set of reputation, some 25 total among all of the vault gods, and you get a bunch of stuff unlocked. But at that point, then you start focusing on only one single vault god. And you keep focusing on that vault god until you get a reputation up to 25 within that vault god. Because if you remember, as you keep getting reputation within a certain vault god, the other vault god's reputations will diminish. So the other vault gods will all go down, and the one that you're focusing on will keep going up until you hit that 25 maximum. And then you can go back into the vault and buy more rooms. And the hope is that you will have unlocked enough rooms initially that you can continue to unlock rooms for that vault god since you have the full 25. Once you are able to manage unlocking 25 rooms of that particular vault god, it's time to switch it up and start focusing on a different vault god and raising that reputation up to 25 as well. And then repeating the process. Once you have brought all 4 vault gods up to 25 reputation and then gone into the Divine Paradox Vault and bought those rooms, then you can have a total of 100 rooms unlocked. Because, and this is the real kicker here, once you unlock a room, it doesn't matter what happens to your reputation. So the reputation can go down in that vault god and the room will still remain unlocked. Pretty neat, huh? Pretty neat. Like I said, it's a lot of work, but you do have the side effect of getting the transmogs unlocked for all 4 vault gods, which can be a really good goal for those people that are really gold focused like that and willing to grind it out. That's enough of that. Now let's hop in and actually run the Divine Paradox Vault and try to complete it. All right, now that we're back into the vault, you can see we have that scavenger hunt style thing up at the very top. And it's interesting that the icons are changing to show you that you get the blessings from every kind of chest. It doesn't really matter what you do. Any kind of looting action has the possibility of yielding a blessing. They are a rare drop, so item rarity will help you quite a bit with this. So let's see if we can actually complete this. Like I said, now it's a regular vault and the mobs are dangerous. But let's see if we can find some of these blessings. So after clearing out this room, I got only one of Tenos blessings from all of that. I basically don't have any item rarity though, because I'm in creative mode, but still, we've got a lot of positive modifiers and I only got one out of all that. It's also worth noting that each room has a theme of its own, not only in terms of the blocks, but in terms of the mobs too. So the Tenos rooms are going to have cold-themed mobs, like these frozen zombies here. And this Idona room is themed after Nether. Oh, fun! And as you might expect, the Valera room is all plant-themed. And like all vaults, time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? We're almost out of time as it is. I think my inventory is a little bit of a mess because, yeah, this isn't really an account where I play on, and I think I was losing blessings because of it, and because I'm in creative mode. But regardless, 2 Tenos rooms, 4 blessings. So yeah, these things are harder than it seems, honestly. I think you need to make sure you have a pretty good set of gear. You need to know what you're doing within each room pretty clearly, and practice at it multiple times before you'll really be able to complete it. But time to go! Or something else that's really worth noting is that the blessings that you carry out of the vault go rotten, just like the scavenger hunt pieces, once you get back into the real world. So, sadly, you can't take them back in with you and use them again. So there you go, everything I know about the Divine Paradox Vault explained as clearly as I know how. I really hope that it helped you out. I really hope that you learned something new, too. And if it helped you out, please consider a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. Yeah, I've slowed down a little bit, but I am still out here making videos. So with that being said, there's nothing left to do except say, remember, be excellent to each other. I'm out.